Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Shai, Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Shai, Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Howell, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim, Chakodash, that belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Citations to the hopefully elect out there, you Akim to Sadakim, through the singing the utmost truth and sincerity on the pre-Shaman. I'm going to be speaking on this whole EV push. It's been a lot of EV electric vehicles heavy. They pushing that, and with the so-called white man, nothing is done by accident or and when they're pushing the agenda, it's definitely for a purpose that's somewhat nefarious, right? Now, this is from the Wall Street Journal. California's EV push hinges on more power and help from drivers. Flexibility among electric vehicle owners in how and when they charge their cars is seen as key to avoiding stress on the electric grid. Because that's one thing these people think, man. They think electricity just pops out the air and shit. Like, oh, it's just energy that comes out of magic. No, it takes coal, it takes different resources, and as you're gonna see with another additional article, it also takes things that are finite to get to produce these electric vehicles. So why is the so-called white man pushing it? I'm gonna speculate as to why I think, based on some prophecies. It says California aims to add millions of new electric vehicles in the coming years. Charging them without impairing any aging grid will require more power generation and help from EV drivers. The state plans to ban the sale of new gasoline-powered cars and trucks by 2035. It means more EVs will be using California power supplies to fuel up, adding pressure to the grid. One, if you don't know already, that gas is not a finite substance. The earth produces, I'm sorry, not gas, oil. The earth produces oil in abundance. It was the Rockefellers that came and created the false narrative that oil is scarce, and that drove skyrocket the price of oil. And of course, they controlled all the different oil companies. So what they did was they created the narrative that oil comes from fossil fuels, like from fossils, like dinosaurs and stuff, which that's now been debunked. So it says, let me read this. 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And the so-called white man is a forger of lies and deceit, and a very subtle beast amongst all these nations. So if he says one thing, then just know there's a nefarious meaning behind it. So why would they want to switch from electric to EV? From oil to EV? Well, it got me thinking, right? Let me jump to this scripture. Matthew 13:18, it says, and pray that your flight be not in the winter. Right? So if there's no power, like they do like an electric lockout, then people will be freeze to death, And I got to thinking that a lot of these cars right now, they're powered by oil, gas, if you will, right? But what if they did something to stop the electricity, like an EMP attack or something like that? That could shut down the use of all vehicles, and the so-called white man could trap us, where you can't move anywhere. Right there. I'm not gonna read any more of the article. California is pushing heavy on EV. It's gonna be soon. All states soon. They're gonna try to bash gasoline vehicles for what the purpose I just mentioned. All right, to keep you on gridlock when shit hits the fan. This right here is, this article says six problems with electric cars that nobody talks about. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump down to the point I want to make. So these are some of the problems with electric vehicles. All right, here's the first one: lithium and other rare metals. Where do they come from, and at what cost? As we wrote above, electric vehicles need precious metals for their batteries. At first, hybrids use NiMH batteries, but competitive electric vehicles rely on Li-ion technology. The expensive part is called lithium, and is getting more expensive these days. However, where does it come from? According to a 2015 U.S. Geological Survey, Australia is the world's biggest supplier of lithium. It's followed by Chile, Argentina, China, and Zimbabwe in the top 5. That's how come they do coup d'etats to take over a lot of these Latin American countries like Chile and Argentina, putting papalitas in there for their resources. Not so much that they care about those countries. It says, just like oil, lithium is a finite resources, in which I said earlier, oil is not finite. Lithium, however, is. It says, and it is I mean, oil is finite, but it's just produced in abundance. It's not as scarce as the so-called white man will have you believe. It's become more expensive because of the demands made by automakers until something better comes along. Lithium could become extremely costly. At the same time, electric cars will also have a bigger price because of the cost of lithium. So these things are even more expensive. These EV vehicles, man, it should be like 60K. It says the problem with electric vehicles is that lithium is not the only rare metal used in their construction. Other rare earth minerals like this dysprosium, lanthanum, neodymium, and praseodymium are used. For exemplification purposes. The electric motors needs neodymium and praseodymium and a touch of dysphorium, dysprosium. The old batteries in 9mH hybrid cars required enanthium, but the new ones still need some of these precious rare earth metals. They are mined in conditions that are not optimal, and the demand hurts the environment. So it's right there. It tells you it's not even about just saving the environment. And first of all, this is another lie with the so-called white man. Carbon dioxide is good for the environment. They like to say it's bad, but CO2 is good for the air. It's good for the plants. What do you think? Volcanic eruptions, when they happen, that's natural. The Most High set them up to emit a bunch of CO2 in the air, all right, to feed the trees, man. So it's not about, oh, let's protect the environment. No, it's about creating carbon taxes, all right? And like I said, these electric vehicles is going to limit you. It's going to limit you. You know, people could do far more autonomous things with gas. The best way I could explain it is like gas is paper money and electric vehicle is digital money, like digital currency, like your credit card, debit card, stuff like that, where it's easier to control. And that's what the so-called white man is about. It's all about power and control. Deuteronomy 28 and 48 says, therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies. This is going into the curses that was put upon our people, the Negroes, Latinos, and the Native Americans, which are the true Israelites according to the Bible. It says, therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord, Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, shall send against thee in the hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. So the so-called white man pretty much got to go to him for everything. Some things are easier than others, but when it comes to transportation, it's going to be more difficult if they fully unroll all EV vehicles. He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until ye have destroyed thee. Yeah, this also goes into slavery. So the so-called Jew doesn't fit this prophecy, all right? We did. The Negroes, Native Americans, all right, Latinos, we wanted to cargo slave ships either imported or exported. You see? So the so-called white man is coming up with something to so-called save the environment is bullshit. Proverbs 12 and 10 reads, a righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. So when you think he's trying to do something good, it's just some cruel shit, man. We just read it. Mining all these minerals is detrimental to the environment. So how could you be talking about trying to save the environment? Here we go. Another thing now. It says goodbye easy fixes and jump starts. That's another thing. These regular typical cars, it's very easy to fix them and get shit going. You could even store your own gas on the side. You know, you got certain vehicles in poor countries from 1984 running. Is it going to be the same with electric? Hell no. It says electric vehicles will not bring any easy fixes for their owners, except for a flat tire or a burned light bulb. Your DIY or do-it-yourself days are over with electric cars. People do not work on modern cars because they have become too complicated. Nevertheless, but offering someone a jump start will not happen with electric vehicles. Well, this means that those vehicles, think about that, the car breaks down, you can't even jump start it. They're trying to create, like I said, more control, more reliance on them dictating how far and where you could go. It's not going to be like the olden days where you could fill up 2 containers of gas, all right, and go off grid. You're not going to have no charging, like a bulb you put in and you can carry around and charge it. And you know what I mean? It's going to be harder. And these things, these EV chargers, it's only but so far they could take the vehicle. It says, while this means that those vehicles will have to be more reliable than conventional ones, one does wonder what will happen to an unlucky owner of an electric vehicle that is out of warranty and has a significant powertrain malfunction. With a conventional car, things can be fixed in most workshops at reasonable rates, depending on how bad the damage was. No self-governing service unit knows how to fix electric motors of automotive grade, and most do not have the tools needed to work on those cars. So instead of getting your car fixed at a workshop, they will potentially send you off to the dealer. If the said dealer were to overcharge you, tough luck. So you're getting fucked on all sides. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. This is why I said they push in this heavy EV shit. No adventures into remote areas for you. So a lot of people are doomsday prepping, and the thing that they're prepping is they have all four vehicles ready to go off different terrains so they could go out there and camp in the woods and all that. But as we read, it says, remember the Land Rover Camel Trophy? The pictures and videos footage of those adventures have brought a profound respect for that brand on many people, myself included. Those Land Rovers could handle everything that was thrown at them, and big jerry cans solved the problems of fuel. Because remember, these vehicles required a lot of power to be driving up mountains, terrains, and such. It says, while some people have managed to drive electric vehicles from one point to another, embarking on thrilling adventures in some cases, none of the trips has targeted remote areas. We do not expect that to happen too soon, if ever, because it will take many years for electric cars to attain a comfortable range on a single charge. See? That's the point of it. Eventually, the car has to die down. You can't go super far off grid. They limit it. It's like putting a dog on a leash. It would have to give someone the level of trust in the machine's ability to cross difficult terrain across vast distance without becoming a very expensive forest decoration, pun intended. In other words, electric cars will not bring the complete death of the conventional vehicle, not in remote areas, and possible not in places where climate is unfriendly. The same applies to hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, which also require a complex fueling system and procedure. So that's what I believe that they're trying to do. When let me read it. Revelations 12:12. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So so-called white man is putting different pieces in play, all right, to limit people from going off grid, being so-called doomsday preppers, from being autonomous and how they get resources and stuff. And one of those ways is this advent of rolling out electric vehicles. Because when all shit hits the fan, EV vehicles will not be as reliable as your typical oil vehicles or gas, fuel, putting gas and go off grid and go on terrains and shit. If you don't have a charging station, you're not going to make it too far. And they could control the car even more. You see? They could control the old ass cars from the 70s. You could put gas in it. You can't trace it. You can't just lock it off from a remote somewhere. All these new electric vehicles with chips and all that stuff's gonna be in. So-called white man could probably even pilot it remotely if he wanted to. See? The more they advance technology, the more controls they put in it. Remember one time you could take the battery out your phone and they couldn't find you or trace you? Now them days are over with. So as they advance technology until it's telling you it's for your comfort and safety, just know that, like one of their founding fathers said, Benjamin Franklin, when you give up safety for liberty, you end up losing both. See? So that's what I believe they pushing this whole EV and forcing it down people's throat, so to speak, man. All right, so they can have more control. With that, I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Chakodash, that belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.